So after spending a lot of time with Zelda, I'm able to discover a lot of stuff that is happening in the world. So this comes down to talking about the story. So with the story, um, it's really mostly backstory. There's no real progression story, as opposed, it's a bit like the actual in-game story is sort of scenarios where you have four scenarios and you go help out a certain village with the divine beast. I guess that's the actual present story, but the rest of the game is pretty much backstory and the history of Hyrule. That's not a problem, because I personally love how they focus so much on the lore, and you get so much lore just by talking to people and reading diary entries and other stuff like that. And it sort of reminds me of Dark Souls, where Dark Souls has such a deep lore without it being told to you. And I kind of like that because it lets you just discover a lot of things that are being scattered around the world. And I love that. I love seeing the origins of certain countries and places in the world. Like the mysteries of like a shrine. Like if you want to discover a shrine, you have to read a diary entry about someone who's on the top of a hill. He's trying to figure out how to get this shrine to work, and it kind of tells a story about him failing, or his research is just he's run out of resources to survive at the top of the mountain, and he had to sort of leave his notes up on the mountain. So Link reads through the book, and it gives you a hint how to do it, and you figure out how to do it. Just want to say, you get a snowball and you sort of wait till a certain time of the day where a shadow casts over a certain object, and then that reveals the shrine. And it's kind of tricky actually, but it's really interesting. I like stuff like that. Also, talking to the women in Gerudo. The backstory of Gerudo is actually really interesting. Like, there's a lot of things to do with that country, and the reaction of a lot of the women in Gerudo are sort of different because they're so isolated from the rest of the world. They're all like born warriors and stuff, and they don't know how to interact with a lot of the other people around the world, and it's just really interesting as well. And what I absolutely love is just when you go around to different stables, you hear a lot of gossip talk and stuff about the things that are happening in the world, like, oh, there are dragons around and they do exist, and you go, but you can't kill them, unfortunately. I would love to kill them, but they're there, they're cool to look at, they're one of the most amazing looking creatures of any video game I've seen. And just a lot of the world building just really helps out with this story, and you have to discover it yourself. So you can get as much story as you want in this game as you want. You're not limited. You're not overly, told a story where you're just forced to sit through cutscenes and, can this just be over? I want to play the game, It's sort of like that. Now, when it comes to the main story, it's really about building the the three main characters. You got Ganon, Link, and Zelda. Now, when I initially went into this game, I thought Link was just a literal, incarnate, just like the rest of the games, but it's actually like 100 years ago. I predicted that, like I did a prediction video saying, Link failed 100 years ago, and I was right. So, and they went with it. It's a different story. They involved Link a lot more, as opposed to just being some random hero that comes out of nowhere. They really built on him being the Hyrule and the destined guy to beat Ganon or whatever. And that was really cool. And him gathering all these powerful abilities, and him being like literally the ultimate champion compared to the other four, just getting all their abilities. I found that really cool. For example, they were saying Rivali is like unmatched when it comes to, in air combat shooting the bow. Like, I heard someone mention in the game, the Great Eagle Bow is so heavy to wield, only Rivali can do it. and Link can do it, so it kind of proves that Link is the best of everyone, really. And it just makes Link look like a monster. And it's now I want to talk about Zelda real quick though. I feel like Zelda plays such a weak role in this game. You get a bunch of backstory, but like half of the backstory is somewhat interesting. The rest is just sort of little quirky cutscenes with Link, and sort of, you know, obviously it's to develop the relationship between Link and Zelda. But I feel like they had less involvement with the world than literally every other NPC. I felt like I had more interest listening to NPCs than what Zelda has to say, because Zelda just talks about, oh, I gotta pray to the goddess to find my hidden power. And that hidden power is literally just the Seal Ganon. I mean, it doesn't get more standard than that, really. I don't have a problem with that, I feel like Zelda just feels like a weakling in this. All she does is Seal Ganon, and she's kind of helpless without Link. Of course, Link is always supposed to be, you know, the central hero and the, you know, the greatest, you know. But, you know, Zelda didn't really help out too much, except, you know, she gave the bow, but all she said is, it's up to you now, Link. Like, Link did pretty much most of the work. All Zelda did was hold Ganon back. And I found that really weird. Now with Ganon, I kind of like that they didn't use Ganondorf as opposed to Ganon, just for, you know, old time's sake. And I miss the Ganon character where it's just pig form Ganon, and it's not, you know, human form Ganon. I prefer, you know, Beast Ganon, because I just feel like, you know, he's a lot more of a menace, just wants to destroy everything. He looks badass. And, you know, Ganondorf is more of, you know, the evil conniving, wants to take over the world. And Beast Ganon is just, I destroy everything. And that's, that was really, it's just really cool to see. It feels like they've gone back a long way. I don't know how to say this, but it feels like a retro Zelda game, but just modernized, and with other stuff encompassing, like, you know, they've completely changed the formula of Zelda, but, you know, I already did a video like that, so it's the story is quite deep if you look far enough. If you rush through the story, you're going to be like, oh, this is kind of a weak story. I also want to talk about the bosses. Now, all the main bosses, they're Ganon. It's literally Ganon. And that kind of, you know, it kind of upset me a little bit. Because although the boss fights are really fun to do, they're all unique in a certain way. But if, you know, fighting Goma or, you know, other bosses and stuff, you know, what's it, Dodongo and stuff, I feel like they're a lot more memorable because they have, because they're distinguished, you know, they're unique bosses that you see. Oh, it's Dodongo, the large lizard of the volcano. I know, yeah, Dodongo is pretty much, I can't remember the name of the large lizard monster, but, the Divine Beast lizard, he's pretty much Dodongo, but I would have liked to actually verse, you know, they could have made like a corrupted Dodongo. I think that would have worked better than, you know, Fireblight Ganon. Although the fights are very fun, they could have done a better job with the bosses. That's simple. Also, the dungeons were a bit, you know, easy, I guess, because there wasn't really any enemies in there except a couple of, you know, Guardian Scouts. So in that regard, but then again, it is different to a lot of other Zelda games, so you can't really treat this like a traditional Zelda game. It's like a new experience. It worked for me because I played this more than pretty much any other Zelda game, you know, in terms of hours, of course. Like, I spent so much time on this game, and I'm still playing it, so... Yeah, so when it comes to the story, it's a little weak if you don't look deep enough, but if you really invest yourself, you can enjoy what's going on in the world. And it comes down to characters. In any video game, great characters make a great story. If you have weak characters, I kind of have to bring this up. You know, I'm not shitting on the game, but Gears of War 4, the characters were so boring. Those characters were boring to listen to, hear what they have to say. They try to attach emotional attachment to someone who is, you know, a mother of somebody. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but for like what, 2 minutes of the game, and then your whole goal is to save that one person. Just like that, I don't get emotionally invested into a story. But with this, you know, you listen to the people around and say, and listen to their struggles, or you know, their joy as well, because there's a lot of it's really interesting. You got to look into it yourself. What else about this story am I missing? Am I missing something? You know, there's like little stone tablets around Zora's domain that you can check out. It really fleshes out the history of, you know, the Zoras, and that was really interesting. You know, I feel like the whole 100 years ago was a bit odd. I felt like they could have stuck with the whole 10,000 years ago as opposed to 100 years ago, because I don't know, because all the main characters, you know, like the king of the Zoras, you know, the kings of each land, they're kind of questioning themselves, like they don't even know what's going on. Or because it would have been better if they just heard something from the history books about Link and Zelda. And it comes down to, you know, Link, Zelda's father, and, you know, the royal family and stuff. I think Link should have just been an incarnation. That kind of would have made it a little better, because you just hear a lot of people in the game talk about, oh, there was a legendary hero Link from 100 years ago. Oh no, he's standing right in front of you, but they really don't notice it. And that kind of bamboozles my mind, but it's there. It's mostly about the history, and Ganon, the boss fight for Ganon. Now, I really want to talk about that. Now, if you beat all the divine beasts, Ganon is an absolute piece of piss. Like, all you have to do is use Urbosa's Fury 3 times on his armor form and you win. It's really that simple. Spam bomb arrows for his first phase, you win with Urbosa's Fury, and then, yeah, the light arrows win you the game. And that was kind of disappointing. Calamity Ganon was a cool fight, but I was expecting a little more. You know, when Dark Beast Ganon came out, I was like, oh, this is cool. But all you do is shoot him 8 times, I'm pretty sure. And that was not fun, because you just shoot him 8 times in certain spots, and I was expecting a little more involvement into the final battle with Dark Beast Ganon. And when I killed him, I thought, oh, there has to be another phase, like a one-on-one. I thought he was going to shrink into like a smaller pig beast form, but no, he ended up just dying. Not dying, sorry, got sealed away, so... And I feel like they could have gotten away with killing Ganon, but, you know, as traditional Zelda, you know, killing people isn't really a type of Nintendo thing, so it's fine, it's not a big deal. You don't have to kill someone to get, you know, to make a good story. You know, sealing Ganon away, he's gonna come back eventually. Now, when it comes to the timeline, obviously it's after Ocarina of Time, because I heard someone in the Gerudo town say Ganon, or they always call him Calamity Ganon, but Ganon took the form of a Gerudo one time, and, you know, they're obviously referring to Ocarina of Time, which who is the same Ganon from Twilight Princess. So he's the only Gerudo Ganon. I don't know if Gerudo's... So we got Wind Waker as well, so he's a Gerudo Ganon too. But you know, obviously that's from a different timeline. And it can't be part of the Wind Waker timeline because Wind Waker is literally flooded. It's actually... well, it could. It's possible, like, it could be before the Wind Waker flood. How... because Wind Waker is so focused on the large open world. And, you know, Hyrule Castle's literally drowned under the water. So it's very possible that it's just before Wind Waker. But I'm convinced it's in the Hero Downfall timeline where... what's it? Only Beast Ganon, not Ganondorf, is present only in the Hero Downfall. So Ganondorf, the human form, or, sorry, Gerudo form, is not in the Downfall timeline. So... I don't know really what to say. I'm gonna say it's just after... what's it? Link... Adventure of Link... yeah, that's the second game, so, and that's the final game under the Hero Downfall timeline. I'm gonna say it takes place there, because in that game it looks like, you know, Hyrule itself is established, and it's a lot more... Obviously you can see this game is a lot more technology based, where you see technology has, you know, advanced so much in terms of, you know, mechanical beasts like Guardians and the Divine Beasts themselves. So Guardians and stuff really show that this has to be the latest game in the timeline. And that makes perfect sense. It has to be, in my opinion, it's more technologically advanced than Wind Waker, so it makes way too much sense to be the final game on the Hero Downfall timeline. And I kind of like where it's placed there, so overall, I think the story was above... the story itself was above average. And if the lore of the whole game, I'd put it at like an 8. 8 to 9. So, okay, we'll go 8.5, screw it, just go mid-ground. 8.5 in terms of the whole lore and world building of the entire game, so... it's, yeah, if you look deep enough, it's actually quite a good story. If you blast through the game, it's kind of weak, I'd say, so... I'm gonna leave it at that. So, my biggest problem with the game, I'd say, is the boss fights. Boss fights could have done much better, and there's only a few. Also, I want to mention, if you rush to Ganon before even doing the Divine Beasts, the boss fight is so much better. First of all, it's not an absolute cheesecake walk. You know, you have to go through all the blights, and they're also a lot more powerful. I'd say they have double the health of the original Divine Beast ones, and also Ganon is at full health. He does not he does not get blasted to oblivion where he has half the health. So if you get him down to half health, you have to go through his armor phase, I'm quite sure. And it's not easy. So I'm going to leave it at that. So tell me what you think about the whole story and world building of Zelda. Just tell me what you think, how they handled it or how they should have handled it. I think it was handled alright. They focus more on the gameplay and mechanics and stuff, which I prefer because it's a video game after all, not a movie. But yeah, just let me know what you think. Subscribe for more Nintendo and other content. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you next time.